What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are not fishing because I am absolutely exhausted. Basically, for the past week or so, I've been just grinding my life away, and it's been tough fishing. Like right now here on Lake Biwa, the fish are kind of really in that spawn and post spawn. There's definitely more fish spawning than there are in post spawn. So it's just kind of brutal. So many fallers that you get, and they just don't care because they're just on a bed. And I don't like to bed fish, so this is a really, really rough time of the year right now on Biwa. Just a lot of the guides, even those guys, are just bed fishing. Obviously, there are guys that are able to catch fish in that post spawn or even sometimes pre spawn, but it definitely seems to be way harder than just going around and trying to find bed fish and fish for the bed fish. And so right now, it's just kind of brutal to find fish that are actively feeding, and when I do find them, sometimes they just don't care for what I'm throwing because a lot of the times the fish are just feeding on very small bait fish that are anywhere from like 3 to maybe 4 inches, 5 inches at the biggest, and that's just the local Morocco. And this time of year, the Morocco are kind of just up shallow, spawning. And so the fish are really keyed in on very small bait. So when I'm trying to throw like a DRT Clash 9 or a Tyrant 10, yeah, they'll follow it, they'll show some interest, but to actually bite the bait, forget about it. It's not happening. They're so keyed in on that small stuff. So if you aren't bed fishing right now, the only other way that these guys are catching them is using midstrol from the bank with maybe like a 5 inch little, shad imitating, minnow imitating lure, or they might even catch them on a 6 inch. But I think a lot of those fish that I'm seeing are caught at night too. Night fishing here on Lake Biwa is almost considered like a cheat code. The fish really let their guards down at night, and so being able to catch some of these fish at night is definitely like a thing that happens here on this lake when the fishing gets tough. Unfortunately, where I'm located, night fishing isn't very possible because, the way I get to the lake a lot of the times is taking a train to a bus, and the bus will take me much closer to the lake so I can at least walk or use my little skateboard to get to the lake. But those buses, they stop running around like 7 or 8 o'clock. So it's kind of tough, but I'm going to try and figure something out to try and do some night fishing just because it's a little bit easier to catch them here at night. But today, I kind of wanted to talk about a lure that I've been fishing this year, even before I came to Japan and had success. And out of this last week, the only lure that I've had success with has been this guy here. This is the Deps Bull Flat. So today, we're going to be talking about this awesome, awesome bait. So if you guys are ready, let's get ready to today's video.
Oh, yeah. Bull Flat.
5.8 よっしゃよっしゃやばいOh my god. Holy shit. Wow. Holy shit. Wow. Bull Flat 5.8. Biwako bass. That is unbelievable, dude. Holy smokes. Wow. Bull Flat 5.8. Nice fish. One quick look at that fish right there. Deps Bull Flat. Sick. .440 right there. Nice. Nice. Short but fat fish. Right there. Alright, so before I've talked about the Deps Bull Flat, and I think I've fished it mostly in the 4.8 size. However, recently I've really been loving the full size 5.8 Bull Flat. Now, this thing is basically just your classic flat style worm bluegill imitating bait that Deps has made, and it's become a very popular bait. Not just here in Japan, but it's starting to kind of get traction in America as well. And at first look, it is a very strange looking lure, but the reason why I really like this lure in particular is, one, the size and what the main forage is supposed to be when you throw a bait of this size. It's 5.8 inches long. So realistically, this is a bait that I'm going to be fishing around fish that are mainly feeding on bluegill, sunfish, crappie, stuff like that. Because, you know, at a side profile, or even when you're looking at it from here, it's got a very flat profile. It's got a nice tall profile that imitates basically bluegill or any type of panfish. And so this has been kind of my go-to bait for when those fish aren't fully committing to a big swim bait, but I can tell that they're still eating that 4 or 5 inch size bluegill. And this is just one of those baits that I'm able to fish in a lot of different areas. I can fish it on the bottom, I can fish it in grass, I can fish it around rock. And having a bait like this is just really fun to fish. It's definitely something different than how I would normally fish like a swim bait, whether it's a soft swim bait or a glide bait or hard bait, where basically when I cast this guy out, I basically let it sink down to the bottom. And the nice thing about the Deps Bull Flat is they make them in two different styles. They make them in the fully salt version and the non-salt. I normally like to go with the salted version. You don't get a whole lot of life out of these because of the salt, and the salt just absolutely destroys these things. However, the sink rate on these things is fantastic when you have the salted version, especially if you're going to be fishing slightly bit deeper water. If I'm fishing anywhere from 15, 20, 25, maybe down to 30 feet, you definitely want to go with the salted version. This is going to be kind of like a salted Cinco, basically, where it has that perfect kind of fall, but it's not too slow, but it's not too fast at the same time. And basically, what I do with that is I just fire it out there, let it sink down to the bottom. It has this beautiful spiral kind of gliding action. And once it gets down on the bottom, I like to just kind of snap it, get it 1-2, and what that basically will have it do is it'll shoot, and then maybe spiral around, or it might glide away from you, might glide towards you. And basically every time I do that snapping motion and it shoots up off the bottom, it kind of just imitates a bluegill that is maybe dying or injured, and it gets a little life, and then it kind of slowly spirals back down. Gets a little life, and then slowly spirals back down. And most of my bites are coming on that fall. So as soon as I snap it and it falls back down, that's when I see my line either taking off, or I feel a thump or something like that. And so it just gives the fish something different to look at, and it gives them a presentation that it's very hard for the fish to say no to, basically. So the way that I rig it, there's a couple different ways you can rig the bull flat. This is my absolute favorite way. This is just an owner beast hook. I prefer the 6/0 version. I believe it's a 1/4 ounce. I go with the 6/0. You can obviously go with the much larger hook like an 8/0 beast hook, but the 6/0 for me, I think it's enough hook to hook those fish, and you get a little more action out of the bait. I feel like it's just less infringing on the bait as a whole as well, and overall I like the sink rate that I get with that 1/4 ounce on the beast hook. So if you guys don't like that 6/0 size, I highly recommend just going up to the 8/0. But the 6/0, if you have the right rod and you really jack them, you can definitely hook them on this bait with that 6/0. And so you can obviously rig it on just a weightless version as well if you want it to really, really slow down. But if you really want it to slow down, you can just fish the non-salt version, which you're going to get a little more life out of the non-salt version, and you're going to get a much slower descent. So if you are fishing maybe shallower water, anywhere from that 5 to 10 feet of water, and you really want that thing to slowly glide down, then I would go with the non-salt version. But if you're fishing that deeper water, if you want it to kind of glide down a little bit faster, then you just go with the salted version. So that's the nice thing about Deps, is that they thought about that already. You have the salted version and the non-salt. So there's pros and cons to both of them. So you kind of just have to understand what you're going to be fishing when you go out there on the water. So Deps 5/8 bull flat has been amazing. They make obviously different sizes. Again, I like the 5/8 size probably the most. It's full size. It's honestly not that big when you really look at it. I really like the size. Small guys will eat it, but you can weed out a lot of those smaller guys. And basically the average size fish that I've really hooked on this is 3+ pounds and bigger. And so I like this size a lot. And what's nice is I can throw it on just my normal gear that I might bring on an everyday fishing basis. So, the fish that I caught in Arizona, I caught it just on one of my swim bait rods. This is the DRT Artex R2 rod and TRSDC Monster Drive. And basically, this rod is a rod that I fish a tiny clash on. It's a rod that I fish my Clash 9 on. And so it's nice that I can go and fish with, I could bring my tiny clashes, I could bring my K9s, my Tyrant 8s, stuff like that. But if I could just tell that they're just not eating that stuff, I can also just easily throw this thing on there. When it's all said and done, this probably weighs around, oh man, maybe like an ounce and a half, ounce and a quarter, something like that. So enough weight so I can even just throw it on this. It definitely helps that I have the Monster Drive on there too, and it just loads up, fires like a rocket out there, and it's just an easy bait to tie on real fast and fish around. And so if you have like a smaller swim bait setup, it will absolutely throw it. The fish that I caught here on Lake Biwa with it was just a mega bass rod that I used for like a 6-inch mag draft freestyle or something like that. Bantam, reel, and I've been jumping between either fishing 16 pound and 20 pound. Obviously, when you start fishing 16 pound, the bait will have kind of more freedom to do what it wants because that line is a lot lighter and it's not very intrusive on the action of the bait or the sink rate on it. Once you jump up to like 20 pound, then it starts to have maybe a slight bit of effect because the line's sinking, so it might sink a little bit faster or it might be a little more intrusive on the action. However, I haven't really noticed a difference, but realistically, if I'm going to be fishing around kind of maybe heavier cover, whether I'm flipping into trees or I'm fishing around some heavy grass, throwing it on 20 pound, no problem. Now, I did catch that fish on 16 pound fluorocarbon out of the tree, flipping and pitching, but that's just me having confidence in the line that I'm fishing with. And I think 16 pound is very, very strong, and it's not too crazy of what I'm flipping. If I was flipping more toolies or just heavy grass or really the middle of a tree and I'm on the outside of it, then yeah, I'd rather just go with 20 pound, especially on a body of water where I know that basically every flip I could hook a 10 pounder. And so you definitely want that little bit extra line if you're going to be flipping around some pretty gnarly cover. But 16 to 20 pound is all you need, which you should already have on a lot of your smaller swim bait setups already. So you don't even need anything crazy to fish the Deps Bull Flat. So that is the Bull Flat, one of my favorite soft plastic baits. I do love throwing soft plastic baits that have a much bigger profile than just your normal standard soft plastic. So, you know, the Deps Kinku 13 inch is amazing. I love the Bull Flat 5.8. Really any lure that is conventional, but it takes an unconventional route by going to a bigger size that not a lot of guys are fishing that are into conventional, but a lot of swim bait guys also pretty much don't really like throwing soft plastic because their swim bait or die is kind of like their mentality. So this is kind of one of those baits that a lot of guys are not fishing, so the fish don't see it as much, I feel like, in my opinion. And I think the fish just absolutely go crazy, and you'll see, like, when you fish this thing, like, the bites just come. They just happen. Me catching that fish the other day out here on Lake Biwa, where I've been just trying to catch him on a swim bait over and over again. The first day I go out and fish with that Bull Flat, I catch a fish. I'm like, okay, it's not rocket science. Just throw something that has a bit bigger of a profile than what everybody else is fishing, but a smaller profile than what I've been fishing to have success. So if you guys have any other questions about the Deps Bull Flat, let me know with a comment down below, and we'll see you guys out on the water next time. So, John.